I'm Dr. Jacqueline French from the NYU Epilepsy Center in New York, and I'm going to be talking to you today about why we desperately need new trial designs for epilepsy. I'm here to tell you that epilepsy trials are in trouble. We've recently had two very large phase 3 trials that failed to separate placebo from the drug effect, even though we think that both of these drugs actually are effective drugs. And this is the first time that large-scale epilepsy studies have failed. Several other trials have been abandoned due to failure to recruit, and this is an enormous expense, and it's less likely that new drugs are going to come and enter trials if we can't solve these problems. This is the standard double-blind placebo-controlled trial as we have been performing it for decades. And as you can see, between the 6 to 12-week baseline period and the 12 to 16-week treatment period, there is a very prolonged time when the patient will remain on the same medications that they were at the beginning of the trial with no possibility of changing them, whether they are doing well or whether they are doing poorly. So what's the problem with that? The problem is that the epilepsy landscape has changed since we started to use this trial design many, many years ago. When we started using the trial design, patients only had 5 anti-epileptic drugs available. They were willing to sit through a placebo period where they might not get a new drug because they had the potential benefit of getting a drug they hadn't tried at the end of it. In 2011, there are 17 anti-epileptic drugs available for them to use. Likely they've only failed maybe 6 or 7, and they still have a lot of options available. Under those circumstances, it is a lot to ask for them to wait for potentially 3, 4, or 5 months without any change in therapy while they continue to have seizures, because we need, for regulatory purposes, to determine whether the drug works. What's the impact of this? It's much harder to recruit patients into trials. Academic centers may be able to recruit 1 to 3 patients, whereas before they had been able to recruit 10 to 12. That means that these trials have to be now performed at a wide variety of locations, including private practice settings and areas that there aren't the diagnostic tools that there might be in an academic center, leading to more noise and more variability. In addition to that, there is an ethical concern here. If you look at this data from Philippe Revelin, who looked at the likelihood of sudden unexplained death if you were randomized into a trial where you were randomized to the arm with efficacious doses versus being randomized into the arm with a placebo. And you can see here that the death rate was 8-fold higher and approached 1% per year on an annualized basis of dying from sudden unexplained death just from being randomized into the placebo arm and not being able to try new therapies. So there is a problem that the patients don't want to be in these studies anymore, and we have an ethical obligation to consider maybe they shouldn't be in these trials anymore. So what is the solution? The solution is to change the trial design. And we would like to have the patients exposed to a shorter placebo period so that they will be safe. And how do you do that? You use better exit strategies. Right now, the patients have to continue in the trial, as I said, whether they're doing better, whether they're doing worse. Imagine a trial where we told the patient, you only have to stay in the trial until we know whether the therapy works for you or not. Is there a way to do that? Yes, there is. It's called the time to event analysis. So you pick a number, let's say 7th seizure, and you say, once you experience 7 seizures, we know the drug isn't working for you. You can exit the trial and you can go and do something that will work for you. So in that case, the 7th seizure may occur on the 3rd day if they're in the placebo arm, and they can exit the trial. But on the other hand, if the drug works for them, they may stay in the trial for 3, 4, or 5 months. So the trial is tailored to them. Much more likely that they will be recruitable into the trial, that the trials will succeed, that we will be able to do these in the proper centers, and we will be able to have these drugs available on the market with regulatory approval.